All right. Hey, thanks for joining us today. We're going to have a conversation with Atlas. I'm really excited about this. I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now. So today we have on tap with us Stan Bastek. He's the director of marketing for Atlas. And we also have Alex Dale. Some of you may know Alex. Alex is a longtime Platinum newsletter subscriber. Very cool guy. He works in Georgia. What's going on, guys?
How you doing?
Hey, man. How you doing, Alex?
How are you, buddy?
Man, I'm good. Hey, I hate formal presentations and I absolutely detest corporate stuff. So I thought we'd just chill and have a conversation today. What do you guys think?
I'm good with that. Great. World, brother.
All right, man. So Stan, how's the state of things with Atlas Corporation, man? What's shaking?
Good, good. Business is good. It's been the last couple of roofing years have been surprisingly strong. I think it's always helped by, storms in certain areas that are sort of 100-year type storms. If you're in the state of Texas, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a really, really strong couple of years for the industry, especially after, sort of climbing your way back out. We monitor things from an ARMA perspective, and it's been strong. And I think that all the roofing manufacturers are looking at ways to innovate and reinvest, and we're no different. And we hear from contractors that there's a lot of pent-up demand and opportunity out there. I think that one of the major things we hear about certainly is the labor shortage, or
Right.
labor is increasing. There's no question that seems to be a theme out there in terms of one of the biggest challenges contractors are dealing with today. But overall, the industry seems healthy and poised for good things over the next several years.
Stan, you're director of marketing. How does a guy get that job?
That's a good question. I don't know if my story is the right path to get this job, but I actually started in our mailroom.
Really?
At Atlas. Yeah. I've been with Atlas for almost 11 years. I started sorting mail and running sales reports back at a time when, right around the time the GAF-Elk merger was going on, and there's another story to that as well, and how that whole thing shaked out. But I came on at a time with Atlas when the industry was sort of evolving very rapidly.
Right.
You
Yeah.
had mergers, acquisitions, the distribution consolidation was sort of getting started at that time. But we're a very different industry in 10 or 11 years, aren't we? I mean, it's amazing.
Huge.
It really is.
Atlas has made a lot of huge improvements. We're going to talk about one of those later today, but I wanted to dig a little deeper, if you don't mind, Stan. So you went from the mailroom all the way up to director of marketing. Wow.
Yeah, I worked in various roles within the marketing department, had a lot of access and exposure to our VPs and our national accounts group, and I had a passion for sales. I didn't know that. I think we talk a lot about the fact that in our industry, it's starved for talent, right? It's starved for new people, new professional salespeople that view sales as a profession. And I looked at this and said, this is something I think I could be good at, and something that I really like. So I put my name in the hat, so to speak, to get an opportunity to go into sales. So I took on a sales role in the state of Georgia, and then had another opportunity to go run a sales region a couple years later up in Philadelphia. So I was in the Philadelphia area running Maine to DC and over to Buffalo for 3 years up there, trying to help us seed and grow our Northeast footprint. So and then an opportunity came up to come back to the corporate office and work for my now boss and mentor, Kirk Villar, who's our VP of Sales and Marketing. And I couldn't pass it up to get back to Atlanta and have more of an influence over the direction of Atlas's future.
So you came up the hard way, man. You worked yourself all the way up. You worked the Northeast. That's some bitter competition out there.
I love it. I'm a bit of a Northeast guy. I'm a mutt. My dad was in the Coast Guard, so I
Gotcha.
moved every 3-4 years my whole life. So it kind of felt natural. And I've actually lived in New York City, lived in South Jersey for a few years at a time when my dad was in the Coast Guard. So going up there, I had a little bit of an edge to me already, and I'm kind of an intense guy, so I fit in okay, But it can be tough up there. It's right in the hotbed of our competition. You got
Right.
certain teams, GAF, they have their headquarters up there too. just unbelievably strong marketing organizations, and you're trying to go pick away some market share from those really, really tough and great competitors, and but made a lot of great friends and relationships, and we're doing good. We're growing in that market, and I like to think had a little bit to do with that. So,
Stan, how long have you known Alex?
I've known Alex for coming on 4 years now. Alex has been with Atlas for about that time, and he's a rising star in our organization, and I knew him a little bit from his days before that when he was in distribution as well. And the things he does, the outside the box thinking he does to get contractors engaged is refreshing. It's exactly what this industry needs. So
Tell us something about Alex, because quite frankly, we have a lot of people on here that know Alex. Atlanta is a massive market. Tell us something about Alex nobody else knows.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I know Alex is a family man, so if Alex is pretty open on his Facebook page, and so you guys probably know this, but one of the things that strikes me about Alex is he is a family person. He's a dedicated father, dedicated husband, and that to me, is what it's all about, because he's a relatable person and he's a genuine, honest person. So I don't know if you all knew that about Alex, but he's a guy you should have in your network. And Alex is actually a social media star too. I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but
yeah. Alex, you're a social media star. Actually, I did know that you're a really good guy, so I don't think Stan spilled any beans there, but I guess the rumors are true. It's been confirmed. You are a decent human being. Tell us about this social media thing that you just recently pulled off, Alex.
It was kind of funny because telling the story to Stan, we had a contractor that was just wanting some help, right? We're all getting out there and we're knocking on the door of a homeowner, and we're all trying to sell our product, which is the roof we install, is better than another. And he had another guy out there, bad-mouthing him, bad-mouthing the products. He used a different shingle manufacturer than we did, and he just asked me, he said, can you record a video for me showing the products differently? What makes you different from another? And we did just that. We didn't throw anybody under the bus, but we just said, look, this is us, that we're Atlas, we think differently, and here's why, and here's how our product shakes out. This gentleman tagged Atlas in his Facebook post, and next thing you know, it's got over 14,000 views and 120 something shares, and it's been all over. So 14,000, it may not seem a lot, but in the roofing industry, I mean, that's borderline.
That's viral. That's what we call roofing viral.
Yeah, that's roofing viral, man. You can get a stupid cat video to get a few million, but if you get a roofing video to do over 100 shares, you've really done something there.
Yeah, and so
okay, I want to include that when we post this, Stan. I want to include a link to that Facebook video, because I think guys need to see what Alex did. They'll appreciate it.
It defies all logic. It was a 6.5-minute video, and we always tell, when we talk to contractors about how to maximize social media, make sure you have video content, number one, but try to keep it like a minute or two or less. And this is a 6.5-minute video in 24 hours, had 14,000 views, and we're like, our minds were blown. So
yeah,
but it just goes to show you that there's a lot of people out there real passionate about talking about the product that they use and wanting to know more about new products. And our industry is starved for this type of a dialogue. And I think that's part of what that showed you, is that let's have a dialogue. I think that it's easy to say, well, I've always been this kind of guy, or I've always used this product, and you can't teach me anything new, and that's garbage or that's crap.
Right.
We deal with it all the time. But to really just say, hey, can we come out and actually show you ours and show you theirs, and let's talk about what you like about theirs and what you like about ours. That's why I think it was so effective, because it was genuine,
Yeah, that helps a lot. I mean, this industry, some of the guys in this industry have a reputation for being notoriously nasty on social media, and I try to stay away from that. I think there's a lot of good guys in the industry. There's a lot of honest, hardworking guys in the industry. Actually, that's what I found as I've gone around speaking and holding these conferences. You very rarely run into the nasty. It's just, Jim Rohn used to say, his mentor told him there's only 8 or 9 really nasty people in the world. Now they move around a lot, but there's only 8 or 9. I just don't meet them. I don't see them out there, and these guys, they raise a lot of ruckus.
Yeah,
but
I think to your point,
sometimes online, we don't meet them either when we're doing our things. We rarely run into people that don't want to have a conversation, and that's what's good. I think that's why Alex is a great salesperson, because he's a sociable person. It's why I like sales, is because you just want to have conversations with people, you know.
That's right.
I want to throw this out there because, what 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 people really want to know is how do I grow my roofing company?
Mhm.
Stan, you were up and down the Northeast, hardcore contractors out there. Alex, you work in one of the most competitive markets. You're on the ground every day. How does Atlas help a guy grow his business? How do you guys do that? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Stan.
Yeah, I, it's what we like to start with in that conversation is, let's take a look at the numbers and just sort of realize what is happening with my business. So let's just say you are a company and you've got a couple of salespeople and you're running 20 leads a week. Okay,
Okay.
maybe that for some guys listening to this that might seem like a lot. Some guys listening to this that might not seem like much at all. But let's
Yeah,
just
I
use
think
that number.
that's a lot of leads for most guys, but there are good
Let's say
guys doing 20.
let's say you're doing 10 leads a week, okay? The reality is there's a lot of time spent calling on customers that you're never going to get their business, right? Because the close
Right.
rate, the average close rate's probably in the 20 to 40% range. If you're closing 40% of your jobs, you are doing really, really good.
Right.
And so then you have to ask the question, okay, so if you're doing 30%, 7 out of 10 jobs that you are going out and putting somebody in the truck, going and investing time in a sales call, going in that home and writing out an estimate and investing all that time, 70% of your time is non-revenue generating. So then you got to ask the question, why do you think that 70% of those consumers didn't go with you? And if we can answer some of those questions for the contractor or help or learn from them why they think that is, that's where we start to develop marketing programs and products, okay, that are going to help with the 70%. Because contractors that are going to buy from us or thinking about buying from us, they don't need help with the 3 they're already getting. They're already getting those jobs. So then we start looking at, okay, are you offering enough product options? Because consumers today do a lot of research. Consumers today want options. They don't want one thing. They want to know, what else do you have? Because different things are going to appeal to different people. We've started looking at financing programs, because a lot of people may not go with you just because you didn't offer them flexible.
Is that a big deal? Is financing a huge deal? I mean, I've never found it to be, but
there's a wave coming, in our opinion, and we think it's a tidal wave.
Really?
With financing. I think that if you look at the big remodeling organizations out there, they're offering financing, and they get it because windows and siding are expensive, and the roof has traditionally been one of those things that we don't really offer financing for. But I would tell any contractor, if you're swiping a credit card, you're already offering financing, whether you view it that way or not. And
hey, that's a good point.
Then the question becomes, okay, well, should you be offering more flexible financing options? And we see that as becoming more important, even in storm markets like Texas, where you're at, Mike. Think about how big the deductibles are in the state of Texas. You got a $300,000 home in the state of Texas, you may be paying 2% deductible on that to get a new roof. That's $6,000. Not a lot of people have $6,000 sitting around in the piggy bank, so it's hard. If you could finance the deductible, that might be an important way to grow your business. So those are the things we're working on. And then we obviously focus on Scotchgard, because we strongly believe at the end of the day, GAF makes a great shingle. Owens Corning makes a great shingle. Certainty makes a great shingle. If we can give consumers something that will never have black streaks on it, we think a lot of people are going to buy into that. And most of us are never going to have a lot of manufacturing defects. We all make good products. But those are the things we like to focus on, is curb appeal and how are you losing jobs and why. So how can we start fixing those problems?
I want to ask you something, Stan, before I ask Alex about the same question. So what are the most successful roofing companies doing? I mean, you got guys that, will do $1 million a year, and then you got guys that'll do 20, 50 million a year. What are those top guys doing differently that the other guys aren't doing?
That's a great question. I think it's probably different in different areas of the country, but I think that, I think the days of thinking that we're just roofing contractors, if I could put myself in that shoe, in those shoes, I think those days are over. I see contractors who are building professional decks and saying, we're not going to spend 15 minutes measuring and write a quote up and leave it. We're actually going to give a professional sales presentation. I think that's really important in the evolution of our business. You've got to go in and sell. You've got to have a process. You got to know what you want to accomplish and what's going to differentiate you from the 4 other people that are following you, because you can be sure that they will. I also think that contractors that are engaging socially and who are getting testimonial video content, contractors who write handwritten notes and register the warranties on behalf of the customer. You're trying to create, I heard from a contractor once, and I'll tell you who it was. His name was Ben Hill Roofing in Atlanta, and I met him and I saw him speak at the Best of Success show one time, and he said, our goal at our company is to create raving fans. And it really stuck with me that, like, your way to grow is by impressing them from start to finish and then getting them to go tell their neighbors about you. And so those are some of the things I see.
Stan, for too long, I talked to Mastermind about this quite a bit, but, contractors have had this, they're like crack rabbits, man. They're short term, next storm, next presentation, next Xactimate, next insurance adjuster, burn it, churn it, go as hard and fast as you can, starve in the winter, and then pray for another hailstorm or pray for spring to roll around so then get going again. And I just don't see contractors being able to make it short term anymore. You've got to be doing those things that you talked about. You have to work on your deck. You have to work on your presentation. You have to offer full service suite. You have to have strong customer service. We live in the age of social media. Anybody can hit you now. They can ding you, knock you down, and they're doing it. So I think that contractors that are not doing those things you said are going to be in a world of hurt coming soon.
The question that you always have to go back to is, do you think that you're going to be the cheapest? And the reality is there's always somebody willing to be cheaper than you. And if you're focused on volume and price, you're probably going to lose in the long run. With a few exceptions, I'm sure there's some guys that have figured that out, but at the end of the day, you've said this, we've seen it, in your marketing collateral, your price is not too high, your value is too low. So how do you build so much value into your presentation? And that's what we take that seriously too, because contractors rely on their manufacturing partners, whether that be Atlas or GAF or Owens Corning, whoever that might be, to bring tools to the table that they might not otherwise think to have access to. So that's what we focus on, is how can we help you stack the deck in your favor in the home, so that whether it's an insurance job and it was a big storm and there's a lot of cream to be had, you still have to be different, because there's 10 other guys that are going to come knock on that door.
That's right. Alex, man, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're in Atlanta. It's a tough market. It's very, very competitive. There's even some shady contractors there, like there are in most other parts of the nation. Crack rabbits, what I call them. But what are the most successful contractors doing in Atlanta right now? Boots on the ground. You're on the ground. You're in front of them. You see them. What are they doing?
I think, Mike, in my perspective, the most successful guys are managing their business well. So they're not just going out, knocking on as many doors as they can and just doing jobs, because even if you're a small company or a large company, well, the cycle of cash flow in the roofing industry is one and such where I'm going to go knock on a door, I'm going to do an insurance job, and the insurance checks may not come in for 4 to 6 weeks. However, I need to pay my suppliers in net 10, net 30 a lot of times. So there's a managing of money and cash flow that you really got to look at in order to be successful. My most successful guys have a trained sales force. They're going to go out and they're going to know their pitch. They're going to have an elevator speech as to why they're better than someone else and why you should go with someone else. You've got a lot of insurance restoration work in my market going on, and you're seeing a lot of insurance providers urging their homeowners to get 3 quotes. Hey, we're going to get you a check, get 3 quotes, and we're going to go from there. So at that point, it's not just about being the first guy to the job and getting it bought. It's about being better than the other 2 guys and creating a point of value. And it's very similar to what I try to do in this industry. I take a similar model. I want to be a resource in the industry. So the conversations I have with folks that don't use my product or don't know me, they know of me and they know of my product, and it makes the sell a little bit easier. You can create value a whole lot quicker with someone like that, and it's the same thing with homeowners. And so I even challenge our contractors, our Atlas guys that I have great relationships with, to diversify your business, right? So if you look at your hopper and say, you know, Mike, I'm a $5 million company and I want to be a $10 million company. What happens when I get to 8? Am I happy? No, now I want to be a $15 million company. So that bar keeps getting raised and raised. So what you need to do is look at your customer base and the people you've touched in the past, whereas typically in the past, a roofing installation was a one-time deal. But we can turn this into multiple touch points through yearly roof inspections, yearly roof cleanings. You know, I'm going to blow off your valleys to make sure any moss or lichens don't grow. I'm going to inspect your gutters. We can do insulation in the house. So it's about diversifying your business in order to grow the touch points and continually grow the business you've already built in order to gain incrementally. Yeah.
So the contractors that are creating multiple touch points with their customers, those are the ones that are most successful in Atlanta. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. You know, you see really heavily trained sales guys out there and ladies as well who are very convincing in what they do. You know, hopefully that's the value we can bring as well is, you know, I see roofing contractors very similarly to roofing manufacturers. We all provide a product. One just, you know, we happen to do the work. The other, we do the work on a manufacturing line and you use our product, right? So if we're all the same, what do we fight over?
Yeah.
Price.
I want to make a point too to piggyback up what Alex is saying. I talked to a large remodeling company recently, and you know what do successful companies do? They database and market to their existing customer base. And if you've got a filing cabinet full of old contracts, you've got to find a way to digitize that. I see it so often. And then you've got to figure out how to weaponize that, so to speak, into marketing opportunities. And this individual I was talking to told me that, yeah, we have done business with like 40% of customers that we already did one job for. So that could have been a repair, that could have been a gutter job, that could have been whatever. And then if you continually market to that existing customer base, those are built-in leads. You've already got a relationship with them. So, but if it's sitting in a filing cabinet, you're probably not going to be able to really use that. So having a database is very important.
Stan, I want to ask you a question, just hypothetical, okay? Let's say you walked into a company, the guy's retiring, he's got 1,000 previous customers. And he's not in a storm environment, so he's all retail at this point. 1,000 prior customers over, let's say, 10, 15 years. How much money do you think those 1,000 names are worth?
It's worth something. I'd have to put some thought into that, but even if you just figure, you know, I don't know what the average roofing job is, you know, but you know, let's just say the average job, let's say $5,000. Maybe it's a $5,000, and you got 40% of those 1,000 previous customers to actually do something again. You know, 40% of 1,400 times $5,000. You know, there's ridiculous potential with that book of business. Is I guess the point. And there's no question about it. If people are doing that, that is another way to evaluate your business if you are getting ready to sell, which I think is kind of where you were leading with that. So,
Stanley, that's a strong point, that database, Stan. I don't think guys are appreciating that. I don't think they're doing a good job with their records. I don't think they're doing a good job remarketing back to their prior clients.
Yeah. And if you have a solid number to say, we have done business with our previous customers the X% of time, that's a way to value a business too. There's no question.
Yeah, if you want to cash out, you better have that database in order.
Absolutely.
And I think, Mike, if it's okay, I want to expand on that a little bit. You know, what's one of the easiest customers that you can sell? That's someone you've already done business with, right? And so if you look at that number and what's the value of a network, right? And so everybody knows 10 people who knows 10 people who knows 10 people, and your name can spread through a network very quickly if you manage it right.
Yeah. Great points, guys. I want to go through a list. I have some questions. You think we could go through some of these?
Fire away.
All right. Thomas, he's a contractor in Wisconsin. He just wants to know, what is successful branding to Atlas? I mean, we all have, every roofing company, every contractor, every manufacturer, we all got skeletons in our closet, things we wish wouldn't have happened, and we just push forward. I mean, you do the very best you can. Obviously, Atlas has evolved a lot and done great things under your leadership, Stan, and your vice president there. But what is successful branding?
Well, that is a loaded question, but let me the first thing that comes to mind is really what I'll address with branding. I think successful branding is not being afraid of the things that have come before you, but also knowing what you want to be, right? I think that if you rewind the tape 10, 15 years ago, Atlas competed more in a commodity price point
Right.
marketplace, and we don't hide from that. We talk to people about that, but we also tell them, that's not who we are today, and we have to make sure we have salespeople that believe that, and then from a top-down perspective, everybody understands that we have a value-added product, which means that I've got to continue to pound it into people's heads that we are not necessarily what you think I was. Now, we acknowledge it. I give a speech all the time about wind performance. We truly believe we have the best product on the market in terms of wind performance because of testing and research we've done over 15 years. But the way I preface that conversation with contractors is by saying 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we went through some of the worst blow-off situations you could have as a manufacturer. And it hurt and it was painful, and we burnt bridges with contractors and with distributors, and we were committed never to go through that again. So if you sort of put a foundation out there that we have felt the pain and here's how we did what we did, that to me is successful branding. And the other thing is, I think that, I'll use Facebook as an example. Facebook, we have really grappled with whether or not to keep our review section on Facebook live or not. So on Facebook, and this is something to educate your contractors as well, you can either turn it on or you can turn it off. You can't control what goes in there, right? So you have to accept the fact that you're going to have some one-star reviews and you've got to respond to them, and that you hope you have a lot more five-star reviews.
Right.
But we've kept it on, and we see a lot of our competitors, and we see a lot of contractors who turn it off. Okay, and the question then becomes, well, why? And I think the best way to build a strong brand is to know what the people that love you think about you, and also the people that hate you think about you, and to be able to respond directly to it. And you got to be on message to who you're talking to. There's no question about that. That may be some of the branding, and we worked hard to know what materials are speaking to homeowners. They got to feel like a homeowner branded message, and what materials are speaking to contractors. They got to feel like a contractor branded message. You can't have a one size fits all branding campaign either. But the main thing is just knowing what you want to be, defending it, and acknowledging where you came from. That's how I would answer that question.
That's brilliant. Alex, obviously a big part of Atlas's branding is Scotchgard.
Absolutely.
Why is Scotchgard so important? I mean, some guys get beat to death over the fact that their shingles don't have Scotchgard. Why is Scotchgard a big deal?
I mean, when we just look at the overall industry as a whole and look at that Scotchgard name, right? Mike, what comes to mind when you look at the brand Scotchgard? Top of your head.
3M.
3M, yeah. That's not a small company, right?
No,
in fact, it's a multi-billion-dollar global organization. So when you have the backing of a company like that, you get a whole lot of notoriety. And 3M actually did a study, and they said that if the name of your company and you were a manufacturer was unknown, you would have 67% of the market, which just means that most homeowners don't know, and a lot of them don't care. So they look to our contractors as an education piece. Mike, you're a contractor. You're going to say, Mike, I'm not sure what I want on my roof. What do you recommend? And at that point, you have the power. What we're saying with Scotchgard is it has a connotation and an aura of stain fighting, stain resistance. A homeowner has paid more for it on their carpet, their couch, their truck seats. So all of a sudden, you have a vision of quality as well. And the fact of the matter is most homeowners know the Scotchgard name. They've seen it. They think Scotch tape. They think 3M. They think their carpet. So when you can go in there and you can show that and show the value and say you'll never have black streaks on your roof again, and that's due to Scotchgard and 3M, all of a sudden you've created value and you've met a need that that customer maybe didn't even know they had, or they've accepted as something they will always have.
Anything to add on that, Stan?
I think at the end of the day, what we know for sure is that nobody wants a decision that they're going to make in investing in their home to take away from their home value, right? If I put a new roof on, I'm expecting that this is going to add value to my home, right? It's gonna look really good. It's going to be something that if I get ready to sell this house in 5, 6, 7 years, I can say it's a newer roof that's on there. And if you know, and we do, that pretty much any algae-resistant streak fighter, stain guard, stain protector shingle on the market, Atlas has made some AR shingles in the past too. If you know that they're going to get black streaks and they only have a limited protection period, and then or your other option was, I could go with a shingle backed by 3M and Scotchgard and have a lifetime warranty that you'll never have black streaks on the roof. As a consumer, I'm going to say, I want that one. I don't want the one that's got a potential to look bad when I get ready to upgrade or downgrade my home. And that's what we're appealing to with the contractor. All you got to do is go in the home and show a before and after type of scenario. And we think that that will be a lot of value, back to that point, to add to defending your price. And it's, we deal in a price-sensitive industry, and if you have something that is perceived to be more valuable because, hey, it was $99 to get the carpet Scotch-guarded, people think that that should be more value wrapped up in that shingle you're presenting. So it's a way to defend your price as well.
All right. Well, how bad do the distributors beat you up over price?
Well, Alex, I think
it's
price is a constant conversation piece, right? And so, it's back to knowing where you want to be positioned, and you've got to do enough to make sure that you can have inventory on the floor to service your contractors and make sure you're not out of the market. But you've also got to defend your price and defend your position so that everybody understands that, we're trying to be a product that can be sold at a price that is healthy and not, at the bottom of the barrel and not dragging the industry down. So it's hard.
Do those guys ever stop? I mean, do they ever stop? Like, is it ever enough for them?
Well, I would flip the question right back to you and say, do you think contractors ever stop asking their distributors about their price?
No.
No. So it works. It's upstream, right? It flows upstream. And so I think the goal is, let's move the conversation from price to something else for as long as we can. And that's the way we approach it.
That's the way a contractor should approach it with a homeowner.
Absolutely.
You don't walk into the house and say, let me give you the price and then let me explain the value. You go lead with value and then you go to your price, hopefully.
You got to be competitive. That's what you got to be realistic about. Everybody, from the contractor with the homeowner to the distributor with their contractor to us with our distribution partners, we've got to be competitive. We've got to put people in a position not to be out of whack. But you also have to be able to say, there's more to it than just my bottom line.
Let me tell you a story, and you guys tell me what you think about this. I've never sold a lot of Atlas in my life. I date back to '95 in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. But there are a few times that I do sell Atlas, and that's a green shingle, a blue shingle, or a Stormmaster slate. Class 4, what's going to happen with Class 4 and insurance companies? Where do you see that going? Are you getting a lot of pushback from the insurance companies as to how long that shingle should last, or what is the definition of a damaged shingle? Talk a little bit about Class 4. Let me hear from you on the manufacturer side.
Yeah. Well, the Class 4 conversation really today is revolving around how can we better understand what a real hailstone will do to a roof, right? And so you've got groups like Rikawi, and you have other groups that are out there doing research. When hailstorms hit, let's go look at that market and let's look at non-class 4 shingles and class 4 shingles, and let's figure out if it's actually doing what we think it's going to do. And largely, the research has shown that class 4 rated shingles are performing X% better than standard shingles. And so that's why you see the discounts still pretty high. Insurance companies are not really working against us, I wouldn't say. I think that insurance companies are embracing the notion that they're going to buy themselves a couple of storms by providing a discount on class 4 impact rated shingles. The real challenge is, okay, at what point does the financial drop off hit for the insurance companies? And that's what they're weighing. You see that there's recently been some class 3 impact rated shingles enter the marketplace out in the Southwest. And we're not going that route. We're going to stay focused on class 4, but there's a smaller discount for class 3, and then it just becomes, okay, does the test method, the UL 2218 test method, really actually genuinely simulate what an ice ball is doing coming down from the heavens when it's a 2-inch steel ball? So that's some of the industry debate that's going on right now. I think it's going to become a bigger issue. I think manufacturers such as Atlas, Malarkey, we see Certainty came out with Northgate. There's a lot of these products entering the market. So I think that we see it becoming a more important deal for us because there's a demand because of these insurance discounts, and the insurance companies are realizing some savings from it. So that would be my answer to it. I think it's going to be more and more important. The question will be, is the test method going to change down the road? And I don't really have great insight for you on that.
Yeah, that's up to the engineers.
Yeah.
Alex, I've always been hesitant to sell class 4. I sell the Stormmaster Slate because of the look, and it's
great
competitively priced. But or I used to when I was out in the field every day. But the problem with class 4 to me is that a homeowner in Texas, like Stan had said earlier, has a $350,000 home, has a 2% deductible. They've got a $7,000 deductible, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got a class 4 roof on their house, and it's 23 squares because it's 2-story. And they've got, $800 worth of collateral damage from a hailstorm. They've got a claim. It doesn't pass inspection. They're trying to sell their house. They got a class 4 roof. It's almost a guarantee that you're going to be paying out of pocket to have your accessories replaced.
Mm-hmm.
And so the class 4 isolates them from having the roof replaced, but it makes them fully financially responsible for everything else that's going to happen because they don't have the benefit of an insurance claim to take care of it.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely something you got to look at. And thankfully here in Georgia, we're not in a high storm area. I think we've actually looked at this point. It's been almost 8 years since we've had some sort of a storm. Thankfully, we're gaining some traction with the class 4 stuff. But it's, when you get into an area like that, I think it's to Stan's point, you've got insurance companies looking at the trade-off and the cost analysis of replacing a roof versus giving a class 4 discount and the collateral damage that can happen with that. So
I think they like to look at it as a get-out-of-jail-free card on future claims.
And it could be.
Yeah, and then they're paying something to do that, but you may be right. I think that we've seen some class 4 shingles with 2.5, 3-inch hail that are completely torn up. So and there's nothing that's going to do. I think that an insurance company would they would have some problems on their hand if they tried to deny those claims. But it's not that it doesn't happen. And we all know too that early in a storm, those checks are getting written pretty freely, and the later you are in the storm, the more difficult it is too. So a lot of it is when a storm hits is you got to get those claims in quickly, and so that's why you see people moving quickly because insurance companies are motivated to take care of it early on.
In these non-storm environments, how long are these class 4 shingles lasting? I mean, what's going on?
I think to answer that question would be challenging for sitting in our chairs because we have test data that shows that the SBS shingles we make are lasting longer because it's a higher grade asphalt that's holding the granules better. So there's some manufacturers use SBS and some manufacturers do different ways of going about it. The
Right.
SBS shingles do have a longer shelf life in general, but you got to understand that, to make a claim like that is difficult because there's so many factors that come into it. Ventilation,
Right.
is a big part of that.
Yeah,
So
that's a huge part.
climate,
I
freeze
prefer the
thaw.
SBS base. That's, I think that just makes sense.
Yeah. We're
Do they?
selling a lot more SBS in cold climates that don't have a lot of hail because of the freeze thaw effect. So you got a modified asphalt that really does better in a freeze thaw environment.
Yeah.
Ryan asked this. He's in Edmonton. By the way, do you guys sell Atlas in Edmonton?
We do not. We don't. We don't really ship at all into Canada. But we have at times in the past, but it's not traditionally a core focus for us.
Are shingles manufactured differently for the northern regions than the southern climates?
I would say today there's been a lot of things that have gotten consistent, but there may be slight things. It's more of an operational question. I don't know that I'm totally prepared to answer, to be totally honest, but
Okay.
I think there's things you got to take into consideration. But I guess to answer the question this way, we have products that are made in Texas and Georgia that are shipping into northern climates that perform well, and vice versa. So I think that might have been the case years ago. But I think back to what I was saying a second ago, we are shipping a lot more modified asphalt shingles north than we ever were, and those are made in Texas and Oklahoma for us because they love that modified flexibility.
So the manufacturing specs are the same, regardless of how the granules turn out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
there's not a different manufacturing process for the northern states or the northeastern states than there are southern climates, but different products are better liked in other regions. Is that
that's
right?
right. And
Okay.
Pretty close to accurate. I always want to vet that with my operations guys, but I don't think the spec's any different.
yeah.
Okay.
And Mike, to expand on that, I think that's the challenge of us as manufacturers to design a product that works as well in a northern climate as it will in, a steamy, humid Georgia climate, right? So we want to make sure it performs well in both aspects.
Can I ask you all a sticky question?
Sure.
Um, so I primarily deal with two different types of contractors. The first type of contractor is basically a marketing organization that hires roofers. And the second type of contractor I deal with is a real life roofer. I mean, the guy actually knows what he's doing, right?
Right.
So this comes up with real life roofers. The glue strips on the top of the shingles as compared to glue strips being on the bottom of the shingles. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. We have made a commitment to keep our glue strip our sealant strip on the top of the shingle because we know definitively from our testing and testing at agencies like PRI, where we do all our third-party testing for FM and UL approvals, things like that, that you will get a better initial seal down and a better long-term seal down when the seal strip is actually laid onto the top of the shingle in the manufacturing process. So I'll talk about the consequence of that in a minute and how we're addressing it. But the reason is gravity has a lot more time to get down through all the cracks and crevices of the granule side and thermally bond to the fiberglass mat. When you are trying to seal to the bottom of a shingle where it's smooth, it's much easier for it to stick there. And so we're addressing the more difficult sealant spot in the manufacturing process. And this goes back to that, hey, we did go through blow-offs a long time ago, and we determined that this was the right way to do it. So when we
Does
came
this have
out
something
with our,
to do with your really strong wind rating? I mean,
Yeah.
you're proud of your wind rating, right? So
we are,
does that tie in here?
we offer 130 wind rating with 4 nails. You don't have to 6 nail our product to get that. Now, code requirement is what it is, but a lot of times people say, well, it's a high wind spec, so we can appeal to that. But so what is the net effect of that? Well, you get contractors in the dead of August in Texas who say, man, my nail gun tip is getting gummed up on your shingles, things like that. And so we hear that stuff. What we've done with the new shingle is we have provided a larger area with target zones where you can avoid getting the nail gun tip in the sealant at all. So we have 2 sealants on the shingle as opposed to most manufacturers have 1, and we've actually taken 1 stitch out of the top line so that nail gun tip doesn't have an opportunity to get stuck. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it's a bigger step forward. And the one thing a lot of our raving contractors love about it is when it seals down, it's not going anywhere. They never go back out to a job because that product's coming off the roof. And so there's a little bit of a trade-off, no doubt about it, but we have tried to address that with the new shingle. And we're aware of it. We understand that, you know, sticking is no fun, but we don't see sticking in the bundles like maybe we did several years ago. And we've tried to address the nail gun sticking with the new sealant pattern.
Well, let me tell you, there was a guy in, he's a mastermind member. There's only a couple dozen of them, but his name's Chuck Allen, and proudly wears his Atlas hat everywhere he goes. He's in College Park. And Chuck wanted to know what prompted the HP42 innovation. What prompted it? What made it happen? Where'd this come from?
It was born out of a packaging change need. And I think if we looked at everything we've done at Atlas over the last 10, 12 years to improve the product, the one thing we were not proud of was our package. And so in order to... Are you talking about the wrapper? Yeah, the wrapper itself. The wrapper, and the way our product looks on a pallet, there's an overhang, the current product. And so that can cause damage, and it just looks droopy at times. So we wanted to fix that and come up with a perfectly square pallet, and we wanted to put in all new packaging equipment. So by doing that and having that goal, this has been a 2-year process to look at what else could we do to enhance the product. And what we found was by going to a wider shingle, a 42-inch shingle, we were able to square up the pallet at the same time as the new wrapping equipment went in, and provide a bunch of other benefits at the same time. So it started with that, and then it turned into, oh my gosh, we can create a zero waste offset. Oh my gosh, we can save contractors 8 fewer shingles to nail down per square. So
Stan, before you get into that, man, let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
I asked you to prepare 4 or 5 slides. Would you mind doing that presentation, man?
Yeah.
This is HP42. This is the new technology. This is actually what prompted me reaching out to Alex. Guys had questions. They wanted to know what's going on here. Stan, would you do this presentation now?
Absolutely. So I'm going to click through. It's just 4 slides. We'll show you some of the things that we're doing with the product. And HP42 technology, just to start off and be totally clear, is not a new product, right? So our StormMaster Shake, our Pinnacle Pristine, our ProLam shingles will still be StormMaster Shake, Pinnacle Pristine, and ProLam. It's a new design and new technology in the shingle. So HP42, as you could probably guess, is 42-inch width on the shingle.
That's wide.
Yes, and people look at that and say, oh my gosh, that's so big. And the reality is, when you look at it, it's not that much bigger overall, but it's big enough to make a big difference. What you're seeing on the screen is a comparison of what is most shingles out there. Your GAF, your Certainty, your Owens Corning are 39 3/8 width, give or take.
So this bottom one?
Yep. So that bottom shingle you're seeing there is what most shingles on the market look like. 39 3/8 wide, and they have a 5 5/8 inch exposure. Okay. The other thing that you'll see is that a lot of the manufacturers have a single faint chalk line as sort of the nailing target, and the actual common bond overlay of the shingle is anywhere from 1/2 inch to maybe 3/4 inch.
Oh, it's like wide.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Sometimes I'm sure it can get a little smaller. That's one of the things Alex actually demoed in his video that he did on social. If you look at our product on the top, we went to 42 inches wide, so it's about 2.5 inches wider, and we already had that 6-inch exposure. So, and then the other thing we did is we basically expanded that nailing zone from 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches by moving some things around with the sealant stitches and also that common bond. So if you're hitting anywhere from that top sealant line all the way down to the exposure, you're catching the common bond of the shingle. So that's really important to us.
Okay. So I see what you're talking about there with that glue strip. It gives you a little bit more room for nailing there, right?
Yeah, and essentially what you're trying to do is you want to aim, above the exposure. But if you aim for that first sealant line your tip and your bottom are not going to get gummed up as long as where you have those open stitches on the top. So that first nailing area is really the ideal target, and you can go all the way up to the second seat line. So again, we took one of the stitches out to try to avoid some of that gumming, but again, keeping it on the top is really important because of all of the wind performance testing that we do.
So this glue strip right here, this is what's giving you the power on that wind rating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's two things. It's the glue strip, and it's ensuring that we're giving installers the best chance to get 4 nails in our shingle. If you blow off happens because wind gets leverage on a shingle, okay? And if it gets leverage, then we've got a second sealant line there to try to, at least protect it so that it can lay back down. It also happens, blow off and slide out happens because of a high nail situation where you don't catch the common bond. And so it's both of those things combined why we feel like we've got the best performing wind product out there.
Is this shingle heavier than the prior?
The shingle weight is going to be the same on a per bundle basis. So one shingle is probably a little heavier than it was just because it's a little bigger. But over the course of a bundle, it's going to be the exact same weight.
Okay. I like that 6-inch right there. That's going to give you a little bit fatter profile. Is it noticeable? Alex, do the contractors say they like that 6-inch better?
Yeah, they actually do. It kind of gives you more of that shake exposure to it. What we see from our guys when they nail this product up is they're getting the full exposure of what they were supposed to get out of the product. Because if you take a 5 5/8 and you go to snap your second line, that's what, 11 1/4. Then you get to your third. Well, I'm not really sure. I'm from Georgia and I went to a small school, so I'm not really sure what that is. But we find guys snapping lines at 11 22, and that equates to what, 5 1/2 inches. So you're losing 1/8 of an inch every course, and your waist all of a sudden becomes a little bit higher. So we feel strongly with a 6-inch, you're going to go 12 and you're going to go 24, and you're going to get that full exposure and what you're expected to get on that.
I think that almost extra 1/2 inch there, that's a big deal. That's one of the things the guys used to like so much about elk before they got swallowed up. They like those higher exposure. The homeowners love the longer look on that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What does the shadow line look on that thing? What does it look like?
Depends on the color. We've got some that have a dark shadow line that gives you some real pop, and then you've got some that have more of a muted shadow line. So we've got a pretty wide.
Same as it's always been.
Yes. Yeah, and we're actually going to be offering some enhanced colors early next year as well. So that'll be coming as well. But color's an evolving thing. So the blends haven't changed on what you're going to see with this specific transition.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, you're good. It's good to kind of get these things out there as they go. The second thing that we wanted to share on this was after you talk about the nailing area is the 42-inch length gives us the ability to specifically design with intent a zero waste offset. Some contractors and crews have figured this out long ago that wasting shingles is not good for their business, but it's not formalized. If you look at the installation instructions for GAF or Owens Corning, for example, every manufacturer requires an offset, and that is because if you have seams line up, then that's a place where a leak could happen.
Right.
We are able to formalize a zero waste offset in a traditional start, right? So if you have a standard start like you're seeing on screen here, we can save any potential waste as long as you follow these instructions. So a full 42-inch shingle would be your first course. Your second course, you would trim 6 inches. You would save it. Your third course, you would trim 12 inches and save it. And then your fourth course, you would trim 18 and save it. And then you take the 18, 12, and 6-inch course and use that as your 5th, 6th, and 7th course.
Gotcha.
So it does two things. Number one, it allows us to say it's a zero waste start. Okay, every job is going to have waste, but if we can save 2-3% waste at the start, that's real money. And the second thing it does is if you have to install 4 courses down the roof and then come back and reset and then do another 4 courses and then come back and reset, we're now saying you can do 7 courses down the roof before you have to do a reset. It's almost twice as efficient in terms of moving down the roof.
Does
So
this get crazy when you're trying to wrap around a dormer and, meet at the top?
it would be no different than it would be with anybody else's at that point. You're going to have to do some measurements, and you're going to have to really look at how that's got to work. But on standard starts, and then even on hip roofs, once you catch up to the cuts on hip roofs, you're going to start to realize the savings again. So the offset cuts are really they're being saved on the front side.
On a
They're
30
only
square, I like that. It's really nice. If the guy would remember to throw it up the roof and reuse it, that's great.
Yeah.
I know that roofers will do it, right?
That's right.
Real
Yeah.
roofers will do it, and guys that are just trying to waste as many bundles as they can probably won't. Um, can I ask another question here?
Please do.
On a 30 square roof, how much does this save in time and in material?
It totally depends on the manufacturer, and so what we've done is we actually provide a calculator on our website. So if you go to atlasroofing.com/pro, there's a calculator there where you can plug in any manufacturer's product in ours, and it'll show you the specific weight savings potential. And the reason I can't give you a definitive answer is because, believe it or not, even though all these shingles are the same size, they all have different offset instructions, and it's sort of mind-boggling. But we're saying that it's up to a 5% savings in waste. And so we've had contractors already who have done these, and they've said, well, my 15% waste factor has gone down to a 10% waste factor, or my 12% waste factor went down to an 8%. If you train your crew to do this, that could be a square to 2 squares on a 40 square job that that's $100-$150 you could be putting back in your pocket in waste savings if you take the time to inform your crews about this. So.
Yeah. And
Could help you pay your crews new rates.
Mike, may I expand a little?
Yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
Alex.
I think to Stan's point, a lot of the value I really see in a more efficient product is, to Stan's point earlier, we talked about labor, right? So labor is, the script is flipped a little bit on labor, where labor is more expensive, at least in my area, in some instances, than the price of a square of shingles.
Right.
And so used to be, it was the other way around. And so you could really negotiate with the manufacturer and try and get your price down. But now the real cash cow is the labor piece, which is on top. So if I can have a product that's up to 5% more efficient, and I've got a couple of squares left over on a job, and I'm taking it back and getting, $100 to $150 back from my job, I've kind of offset that labor cost, and I'm more efficient, and my crews that I'm paying more are getting done faster, and they're able to go to the next job. So we see that as a huge value piece for our contractors.
Yeah, I can understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Stan, you want to keep moving here?
Yep. Real quickly, this next slide just shows how much quicker the 6-inch exposure grows. When you have a 6-inch exposure versus a 5 5/8, after 15 courses with Atlas, you've already done 16 courses with the other shingle. So that just shows just the exposure part of it. And then the 42-inch piece is where you get the other side of that savings. But it's just a nice visual to show, hey, you really are realizing that savings because of that 3/8 of an inch after 15 courses. We talked a lot about the nailing area, but just to reiterate, we do offer a 130-mile-per-hour wind warranty with 4 nails where code allows, because of the things we talked about. So I won't belabor that anymore. But this
How does a contractor get that 130-mile-per-hour wind warranty? Do they have to do anything special, or is that straight out of the box?
For us, it's an out-of-the-box warranty with 4 nails. Now, Mansard applications, you do have to, there is a special requirement there because you have no gravity working on your side. So that's the only exception if you look at our installation instructions. But 4-nail 130 is standard for us because of the 2 sealants and because of the bigger nailing area. Now, a best practice is starter, absolutely. If you have blow-off and there's no starter at the eave, you're more likely going to have a problem. Our system warranties require that. But again, in terms of the wind performance of the field shingle itself, it's 4-nail out of the box.
Cool.
So the last slide I prepared was a 40-square job example. So you take a 40-square job and you look at the savings potential with this shingle. And I encourage your members to go and just take a look at the calculator and plug their own numbers in and play around. But the first thing is nails. On a 40-square job, when you're looking at 130-mile-per-hour installation, it's 6,400 fewer nails installed on that job. So, you got to figure out, okay, what does a box of nails cost me? Maybe 40 bucks is it. Maybe it's a little lower. Maybe it's 28 bucks. Whatever that number is, though, that's what you can expect to save on a 40 square job with our application, and also because of the fewer shingles. Where it gets really exciting is it's 8 fewer shingles per square every day, all day. So on a 40 square job, 40 times 8 is 320 fewer shingles being nailed down on the roof. And the way we like to talk about that is it's the equivalent of 5 squares of shingles in labor time. So how long does it take one of your guys to nail down 5 squares of the competitor's product? That's the time you can expect to save with this shingle, because we made it a little bigger. And we're saying that's 2 to 4 labor hours that you're saving on that job. So if you're running a 5-man crew and 2 of those guys are nailing shingles down, you could expect to get off that job 1 to 2 hours, real hours earlier, because you got 2 guys installing it. So again, we're talking in terms of labor hours. Want to make that distinction. But the thing that I think that we can all relate to if you've been out on jobs is you get that afternoon shower, or you get that morning where you just can't get started as quick as you wanted to because you were finishing up another job. It's allowing contractors to finish jobs they would otherwise have had to take 2 days on in one day because of that efficiency. So there's some real time savings there.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. That's a great little presentation. I can see the benefits of that. What happens when your competitors come along and mimic you?
Well, it's certainly possible. There's no question about that. We've changed the size of the shingle, and the size of the shingles in the industry have changed several times. Everybody used to make a 36-inch wide shingle. You probably remember those days, the old little shingles, the 36 inches, and then everybody went to a 39 3/8, and now we've gone to 42. So I think it's possible. It's not a quick change. To change like this for us, it was a 2-year process of planning. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of cost involved to change. So I wouldn't expect that we'll see somebody in 2018 with this, but hey, if we're a first mover and an industry leader, that's the way we view ourselves with Scotchgard or with HP42. So to be able to lead the charge on something like this would be great, and we'll take advantage of the benefits we've got while we've got it. But we're trying to give contractors a lot of reasons to choose Atlas.
Yeah, this was a strong interview. What do you guys think?
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Great questions, and appreciate the platform to talk with you.
Absolutely.
I think great takeaways here. The database you talked about, Stan. We talked about social media. We talked about transparency on feedback, and obviously this HP42 shingle is cool. It's good stuff. How do guys get a hold of you? I mean, how do they get a hold of Atlas? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
The best way for contractors to get in touch with us is reach out to their local rep. And if you don't know your local rep, the fastest way for us to know who you are is to go to atlasroofing.com/pro, P-R-O. And if you just sign up for a free account there, you will probably be really wowed by the marketing tools that we have available. But that will immediately put into motion an email and notification and a push notification to our reps on their mobile devices that, hey, there's somebody new in your area that wants to talk to you. And we'll reach out very quickly. We can come and talk to you about what we do, learn about your business, and that's really what we do. We don't view ourselves as salespeople so much as we do business consultants, because that's what it turned into. We're trying to help you as a small business owner maximize what you're doing in your everyday world, and so we just want to come in and talk to you about how to complement it. But that'd be the fastest way. And if anybody has questions for me, I'm more than happy for you to email me directly. My email is SBASTEK, so SBASTEK, first initial, last name, at atlasroofing.com. And Alex is the same thing, adale@atlasroofing.com. We'd love to talk with you guys.
Yeah, and
Alex,
sorry, Mike.
go ahead, bud.
I was just going to say I urge our contractors and folks in your membership as well to reach out to us on social media. We are very active on social. It's a trend for not just for us, but we've got a lot of millennials out there, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter. We are very engaging in these avenues. And so reach out to us. If you haven't noticed so far with the Scotch Guard and the HP42 redesign, those really came from feedback from contractors. So we like to hear from our contractors. We like to engage with them. So, find us on social media as well.
Yeah, Alex, the force is strong with you on social media, man. What's
I'm
your
telling
what's your what's your Twitter handle? Do you got a Twitter handle? Do you LinkedIn?
you.
What's the best way to what's your best social media site?
Listen, Mike, you can hit me at @TAlexDale on the Twitter.
On the Twitters?
That's
On the
right.
Twitterverse.
All right, man. Well, it was a great interview. I really appreciate you guys taking time to do this. Stan will get it edited and get it out to the mastermind first, and then I'm going to roll it out to some newsletter subscribers, and then we'll hit it on the Roofing Salesman page and make sure everybody sees it. I think you're going to be surprised how many people are actually going to watch this thing all the way through. Good stuff in here, guys. Good stuff.
We appreciate, Mike. We love what you're doing as well, and we encourage you to keep it up, man, because the more people that are buying into the profession of selling and selling on value, the better our industry is going to be. So the guys that you've got listening to you and hearing what you're doing are exactly the kind of guys we want to have a relationship with. Even if you're not buying Atlas shingles, let's talk, because at the end of the day, it's all about raising the whole profile of this entire industry. So we love what you're doing as well.
It's a very small circle when you get into it, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks a
All
lot.
right.
Thanks so much.
Make it a great day.
Mike.
Yeah.